So, welcome for the second session. So as I introduced myself, I am Rajesh. I am PhD student and lecturer here. My work is particularly on Indian philosophy, and actually Jay has given a very good foundation for this workshop on foundations of arts before so that it becomes easier for me to start this session. As Jay was mentioning, 10% of art, whatever is practiced today, that is a minimal portion of what entire art would have been, what entire art would have consisted. Art would also consist of thought, apart from execution. Mostly the idea, like he gave this example of Nataraja, idea of Nataraja can be manifested in various forms, in dance, in music, in literature, in painting, in various ways. So right now most of the focus and energy of the practitioners is going into the skill of the art than the original idea. They are not debating the idea of Nataraja, more they are debating the execution of this idea. So art, particularly Indian art, it is there are umpteen examples where one can say most of the artworks, you take anything, be it literature, painting, sculpture, architecture, any of these things, they are heavily loaded with questions about reality, inquiry into reality. We will see some examples in the next session. So actually the next session is about art as an inquiry into reality, but before that I thought I should touch in this session about reality as such. How much of thought people have put in addressing this question, what is reality? It is a question which every human, whoever have set their foot on earth since time immemorial, would have got. It's not anything specific to a particular time or place. Anywhere, it would not be an exaggeration to say that there would be no place on earth where this question was not asked at some point of time or other. Be it India, Indonesia, China, Egypt, Africa, Bali, Malaysia, Persia, Babylonia, anywhere. Everyone had asked this question, but the answers they came up with are very different. We know this popular Vedic statement, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. That which exists is one, but scholars describe it in different ways. So this question of what is reality is common, but the answers which people have come up with are varied, varieties of them. It's like millions of people have put billions of man-hours in approaching this question, what is reality, and they have come up with a few lakh varieties of answers, out of which a few thousand of them developed into full-fledged philosophical schools or systems, from which a few thousands are passed down to us, from which a few hundred are available in public domain, out of which each of us know hardly one or two. Even that to kacha kacha. So the moral of the story is it's actually a very sad story. The problem with modern, sorry, now this is, yes sir. Yeah, so.
Sorry, 1 minute. Sorry, it was the distraction.
The problem with modern pedagogical system is there are hundreds of disciplines and all of them are compartmentalized. Each one is like an island of its own. Even if you take, like, best examples, even if you take something like medicine, we have hundreds of varieties of doctors. For heart there is one doctor, for skin there is one, for bones, for muscles, for eyes, for nose. As if you go to one doctor who checks eyes, he can't check any other part of your body. He is not an expert in that. Some basic knowledge one may have, but the current understanding of knowledge systems has become so much that they are divided from each other. It's as if this is my subject, I need not know anything else. But if you really want to understand even your subject properly, you need to know other subjects. Because everything is part of one reality. You need to see the connections with other portions of reality if you want to master your particular area. So it is not like isolated or unrelated to other things. And also, as some of the examples Jay was giving, most like dancer, she would debate with scholars on stage. So training in dance is not just skills. They would train in all kinds of shastras. They would train in all the Vedas, Upavedas, Vedangas, Puranas, Darshanas, Alankar Shastra, Natya Shastra, all kinds of things they would train. And that will actually make you a holistic artist. It's not just being able to move your body beautifully. So that portion is completely negated now. I mean, now it's like, it's not my job. If I know this, it is enough. But you can't know that properly without knowing other things. And say, for instance, even if we take something like Ramayana and Mahabharata, we all know Mahabharata begins with a shloka which says that that which is not here is not anywhere else, that which is anywhere else is here. The popular reading of that is that Mahabharata is a text which sort of covers all possible human situations, all possible moral dilemmas, any human situation you can imagine that is present there. That is one popular reading. But that is a very superficial reading. It is much more deeper than that. It is actually saying all knowledge systems are present in it. You will find Ayurveda, you will find Dhanurveda, you will find Alankar Shastra, you will find Natya Shastra, you will find Kam Shastra, you will find metallurgy, even the modern electrical engineering related things you will find in that. So it is in that sense Mahabharata is saying anything you can find anywhere, you will find here also. That which you don't find here, you will not find anywhere else. So we have reduced these itihasas, Puranas, all these things to just some dramas, some stories. Ram did that, Yudhishthira did that, Arjun did that. No, first of all, are they even humans? That question comes. And what is the difference between itihas and history? That question comes. What is the idea of truth? That question comes. We usually have an understanding of truth as correspondence theory of truth. Like if I say there is some man sitting in the next room, this statement is true only if it corresponds to the state of affairs that there is actually a man sitting in the next room or not. If he is not sitting, this statement is false. If he is sitting, this statement is true. So when a statement is said, we expect it to correspond with reality out there and we decide its truth value. But there are other notions of truth. Truth can be, for instance, if you take this different philosophical systems about reality itself, reality is one, but each school speaks very differently about reality. Each school describes reality very differently. Sometimes they are not just different, they are contradictory to each other. Now one may ask a question, which is the true system? This question may come for a, mind trained in modern education. But there is a different way of looking at it. Can everything be true, but be contradictory to each other? Such a state is possible. And here the idea of truth is, it needs to be looked upon by staying within the system. The idea of truth comes from the coherence of the system. If a system is coherent internally,
subjective.
No. Subjective is, we'll come to that, subjective, objective. Actually subjective is like arbitrary. I mean it's like, I think this is a laptop, you don't think this is a laptop, that will become subjective truth. But it's not the case. It is what it is. We may have our limitations in perceiving it the way we perceive it. So there is an objectivity there, and we have our own subjective limitations in perceiving that objectivity. So that is a better term would be intersubjective rather than only subjective or only objective. Right now, the divide between science and humanities is that science claims itself to be completely objective, and they relegate humanities to be completely subjective. But they don't look at the humanities portion of scientists. They use their imagination, they use their memories, they use their cultural upbringing in the way they discover solutions to the problems. Like he was saying, maths is an art, because why should one wait for a particular mathematician for a couple of centuries or 10 centuries to solve one particular problem? If maths is science, then step 1, step 2, step 3, that problem should be solved. Why should we wait for a particular mathematician to do that? Because only that mathematician could think in a particular way, he could imagine in a particular way. That is the humanities portion. But that is not subjective as such. That problem guides you in a particular way. So there is an objectivity to the problem, which this mathematician could intuit. So that imagination is playing a role in some of the greatest so-called scientists and mathematicians. And on the other hand, art is also, or art or any humanities thing, you take philosophy, art, they can be very logical, very rational. They are not just subjective things.
That's one. I just want to add a point here. Is that exactly he quoted one point is about Ramayana and Mahabharata. He would say we have done in my opinion, pardon me if I'm wrong, but for a strong word I'm using, it's an unpardonable sin. I would say we have relegated Ramayana and Mahabharata to be stories, like short stories and novel stories. You can't ruin a kavya more than that. No, there is nothing you can do for itihasa like that. Itihasas have been reduced to chapter 1 novel, chapter 2 volumes of 6 novels. Because it is just the, interestingly, one great person, Vishwanath Satyanarayana, he used that to say the word Bhava Daridram. Daridram in Bhava has made us to relegate such great itihasas. What he's saying is exactly this, the subjectivity and objectivity. Now Ramana is subjective. That's a way of looking at Sita, there's another way of looking at Rama, there's a way of looking at this is unpardonable. For the reason we are trying to debate not on Rama and Sita, we are entirely trying to debate on subjectivity and objectivity of an intersubjective matter. We are trying to put one man other into shadow and other man into high. These are all very politically influenced thought. Not just political, what he is exactly saying is so common in the current art field. Trying to write stories on itihasas. Stories is a very O. Henry kind of a work. O. Henry was a kind of a person who popularized it. When he was alive, nothing he got out of short stories. When he died, his work became popular. Fine. But nowadays we are trying to convert everything into short story patterns. Kavya and itihasas are very different things, and that's where exactly he's coming with the objectivity of reading a kavya. There is an objective way of reading it, and an intersubjective way of reading it. This is a subjective way of reading it. Anyway,
so we are trying to also see why the name Ramayana.
Yeah, everything, every question you can ask about those things. Why the name Ramayana? Why did Rama do this? Why didn't he do something else? Why did Sita react like that? Why didn't she react in some other way? Every question needs to be raised, and there is a logical answer for that. So it can't be just arbitrary. It can't be like I write my own Ramayana, I just give a name Ram, I make him do all kinds of things I want. No, that will not be Ramayana. One can judge. No, this has nothing to do with Ramayana except if you are borrowing from Ramayana. So what is giving us that ability to judge this sounds like Ramayana or this does not sound like Ramayana? Or this is close to Ramayana or this is not close to Ramayana? Because Ramayana itself has its own reality. It's like this table and the laptop or whatever, this room, it has its own reality. You can't just walk through it. I will imagine there is no wall, I will walk through it. No, wall will not allow you. So either you are too adamant or you are stupid. You will just try to keep walking through the wall. Similarly, Ram will not allow you to write his character in a different way. Ram has an objectivity. Every character there has its own reality, independent reality. This wall will exist whether I am there or not. Whether I am in this room or outside or I am outside IIIT, wherever, this wall will exist. Similarly, Ram's character, Sita's character, every character there will exist whether we are there or not. It's only we culling out them from our own memories or memories from our tradition, whatever it is, we are manifesting or expressing them through various art forms. We are not creating them. We are discovering those truths which are eternal. So Itihas speaks of eternal truths. History speaks of particular truths. Itihas speaks of eternal past. This is it. Iti ha asa. This is how it happened. As it happened. That is Itihas. But how do we know how it happened? No one was there, no written documents are there, no time machine is there where I can go back and see actually how it happened. But how can I claim this is how it happened? So that confidence is of a different nature than history. Because the concepts have their own reality. If you understand the reality and the relations among these concepts, you will know that this character has to behave in this way only. If you are genuine, if you maintain the integrity of character, this is how the story will unfold. It can't unfold in any other way. So there is like an equation, After step 1, you get this next step, it has to go in that direction only. Similarly, a story also. After this event has to happen, then this event has to happen. It's something like that. So there is an objectivity to the itihas, which stands on the reality of those characters. So that is also real. So what is reality is a question. People say that is imagination. That is not real. So then the question is, what is real? What is imagination? This question will come. So all these questions art has to address. What is art will lead to all these questions. Art is not to do with this physical reality, it is to do with imagination. Then what is imagination? Anything and everything goes in imagination. Then how do you differentiate good art and bad art? Then that is subjective. I will think my art is good, you don't think my art is good, that's your problem. There is nothing like good art or bad art. No, that is the current understanding. That's the problem of the split between science and humanities and all these things. Humanities, they define by saying it's the freedom of man which defines humanities.
Free will kind of.
Free will, freedom. Freedom means what? Doing anything. Arbitrary. No causal reasoning. Anything arbitrary defines freedom. But that's completely illogical, and that's never the way we work. We say those people are mad. Right? How do we distinguish mad people and normal people? We can't find logic behind mad people's actions, that's why we say they are mad. But if you say every human is free and freedom is nothing but doing actions arbitrarily, then everyone should be mad. So that is not the way we behave, and that is not what humanities is. You cannot reduce humanities by saying it is freedom, and it is not freedom the way we understand should be called freedom. Freedom is not to do anything and everything the way you want. No, walk through that wall. You're not free to walk through that wall. That wall will stop you. You're not free to think in a particular way. You're not free to kill someone. It's not just the system stopping you, but you have some moral values which may stop you. So freedom is not absolute freedom. We make choices. We are agents. We have an agency by which we take decisions. That is the freedom. But this freedom of taking an action has a logic, has a causal reasoning. Why should I do this rather than this? I choose to do this because I find this more logical. That is the freedom. Or I choose to do this though it seems illogical. That is something you are exercising, but still you are aware, consciously or subconsciously, you are doing it. So ideas of freedom, ideas of human nature, what is arbitrariness, what is science, what is humanities, what is art, all these are linked. And what is reality? The most important thing. If you don't understand reality, see, all of us subscribe to some school of reality or another. We need not study in any particular school to subscribe to that. We are raised in a particular environment, or we are exposed to some ideas through reading or education or whatever it is. We may revise our ideas, but we are imbibed, we are embedded in some or other school of philosophy. Sometimes it can be a mixture. We can be partially capitalist, partially communist, partially democratic people. All kinds of mixture we can have. In one particular situation we may behave like capitalists, in another situation we can behave like communists. That is all there. But we do behave. We do take a stand in a given situation, which is actually speaking of our worldview. Each one of us has a worldview. We look at the world in a particular way, we have an understanding of the world. One understanding can be entire world is matter. There is no mind, like modern science, scientific materialism. Now, in such a world, how do you accommodate something like morality? How do you accommodate something like ethics? If everything is matter, then what is a moral action, what is an immoral action? Suppose I want to kill someone. I push that person off a cliff. Now it is some matter pushing some other matter, that falling some other matter, on some other matter, hitting and getting destroyed. How does it matter? Why should you put this matter in jail? Then the judge will also answer, some matter is putting this matter in jail, why should you worry? So, if you are a hardcore materialist, if you give this kind of logic to hurt others or to justify your actions, whatever you do, then you should also be equally ready to get the punishment, thinking that it's only your matter getting punished, you not as a non-material thing. If you are that equanimous in your behavior, then it's perfectly fine. but we are not. So we subscribe to a philosophy, but mostly what happens is, when it is convenient to us, we subscribe to one philosophy. When it is not convenient to us, we subscribe to another philosophy. That is the problem. So we should be aware of how we look at reality, what is our understanding of reality, and even when it manifests in some artwork, what are they speaking of? There are multiple schools, and each school has its own system, a full-scale system. It's built from bottom up. They have some basic alphabets, they have some axioms, they have some procedures of building complex things from simple things. So it's a full-fledged system. There are many such systems which may be different or which may even be contradicting with each other. But when we are judging a system, we cannot stand outside the system and judge it. We can't just say you're wrong. From whose point of view you're wrong, that should be questioned. We can't just say this statement is true or false. According to which school this statement is true or false. When we say Atman exists, that is true according to some schools, that is not true according to some schools. So you can't just say it is a true statement or a false statement. You should ask, according to whom are you saying Atman exists? Are you saying according to Buddhists, or are you saying according to Advaitins, or are you saying according to Dvait people? Which school are you speaking of? And every school has its own technical terms. The technical term in one school may be entirely different from the way it is used in another school. Buddhi in Sankhya is very different from the way it is used in Vaisheshik. Same term is used, but the meaning is very different. So we need to be little aware when we use these terms. These are heavily loaded technical terms. It's like physics, no? You can't just use force anywhere and everywhere and just say this is physics. If I say, I forced you to come to the class, it does not mean I have applied F equals ma amount of force on you to come to the class. No, it's a very different kind of usage of the word force. It is poetic or whatever it is not definitely Newton's laws of physics force. Or when I say, I forced myself to go to the class, if you want to read it according to Newton's laws, it actually contradicts it, because Newton's first law says an object which is at rest or in constant motion continues to be at rest or constant motion unless some external force is applied on it. Then how can I say I forced myself to go to the class? I am not external to myself. This will violate Newton's laws. But this is a valid statement in English. So you shouldn't confuse the force in physics to the force in this statement. You should know this has nothing to do with the force which is used in physics. That is a frozen word, that is a technical word, it has its boundaries, and whenever we use it, we should use it in that particular way. Similarly, every one of these disciplines in humanities also, in arts also, they are technical disciplines, they use technical jargon. So when you are using that word, you should be clear according to which school I am using that word. Am I using it according to Alankar Shastra, or am I using it according to Ayurveda, or am I using it according to Arthashastra? From which school am I picking up? Whose meaning am I picking up? Then we can ask a question. So that is the thing. So we'll get into some of these instances. So I'll give in the next session some examples of how art can be an inquiry into reality. But before that, in this session, I want to focus on what is reality, what kind of thoughts went on this question, and what kind of different answers people have given. And also, we think that art is one of the best forms of reflection on them, on these answers. Art is one of the best forms of reflection. How do you reflect on these answers? You encode these answers in various ways. You encode them in sculpture, painting, architecture, etc. Or you reflect on them by performing art, by doing some art. In the process of doing it, you reflect on them. Or by communicating it to others, by encoding it in one way, you reflect. Others will also, it's an occasion for others also to reflect on reality. So, many of these ideas are encoded in many artworks, particularly Indian art, be it literature, painting, sculpture.
I think here what he is explaining, since we have been discussing for quite some time, and it might be new to the way of looking at it, we used to say that even when Natyashastra was written, there was something what he's going to say, like now what he's going to elaborate on. This kind of objectivity, what he's saying, if at all you say Bharata is a school of thought, argument's sake, this is a reality he's seeing, he would also start something from something like this. No, I'll rephrase what I'm saying. Reading Natyashastra is not reading first shlokam, second shlokam, third shlokam and fourth shlokam. Wrong way of reading Shastra. Very wrong way of reading a Shastra. First, reading Abhinaya Darpanam is not reading Angikam Bhuvanam. Next, go into Natya Utpatti. No. First question you would ask is this question, what is asking? What is the fundamental? What is these objectivity? What are intersubjective ideas? And what is the basics behind it? Where is being borrowed from? If we don't understand that, we can never read a Shastra. Never. And we'll never be able to understand it. We'll only land up doing what the French scholar did for the first manuscript of Natya Shastra. He took the Sanskrit thing and he wrote the English meaning for it. And we think Shastra is I know not all, but many of them who don't know the subject thought that is Shastra. Shastra, that is how it is written. But reading a Shastra this is what is opening. Now, why I made this connection so that next time you touch Natya Shastra, we'd ask this question, what he's asking. This question is the way to open a Shastra. What is the problem? What is the arche? What is the essential technical term? If he's using buddhi, in which context Bharata is using buddhi? If he's using manas, which context is using manas? Is it saved inside? So these are the questions which we don't ask before opening a Shastra. This is exactly what is put down in the tabular column, that you will see different schools. Because I'm adding this point, because we touch Natya Shastra thinking it is like reading an English translation. Like most of us are not enrolled with that glory of Sanskrit. We only have English translation in hand. It is first we ask questions like what he is going to elaborate on.
Yeah. So adding to that, no text is isolated, like just we discussed. No discipline is isolated. Similarly, no text in Indian tradition can be read in isolation. If you really want to read the text, you need to read some 100 other texts to really understand what this text is saying. So say if you want to understand something about Natya Shastra, maybe you need to understand something about body, for which you may need to read Ayurveda. For Ayurveda, you need to understand Sankhya and Vaiseshik, because Ayurveda is taking many things from Sankhya and Vaiseshik schools. So to understand one line in Natya Shastra, to understand one term in Natya Shastra, first you need to know which school are they subscribing to, or from which school's point of view they are writing it. There can be different commentaries on Natya Shastra. Different schools, there can be different school-based Natya Shastra. There can be Vaiseshik Natya Shastra, there can be Sankhya Natya Shastra, there can be Yoga Natya Shastra.
Oh, Manoj, can you repeat the same sentence? This is what you're making. There is no one way of reading Natya Shastra, not even, this is not subjective nature. There is no one way of understanding Natya Shastra. That is very clear. We are now understanding it only from a practitioner's point of view. There is no one way. This is what he's exactly saying, Yoga Natya Shastra. This is not Natya Yoga. Please, these years are very hyped nowadays. There's something called Natya Yoga. All these terms are very beautiful to listen. But it comes from a very different sense. If we open that term and see, it would sound something very different.
The simplest
that's probably a silly question, but see, you said there's an idea and that idea gets interpreted by various people of various abilities, like a sculptor, a painter. So now suppose there's Nataraja, the most popular idea of it seems to be the iconographist's interpretation in this form, and that gets represented in dance and in music. They describe that. I mean, I'm not sure about Nataraja, but in general an idea, that same thing gets popularized. So then nobody ever knew that this was the mudra, or there's so many other interpretations of other people, other lines of work. That interpretation never became popular. How is it like that?
That is based on easy to access for a common man. Icon is far more catching to the eye, and it's far more relatable to a normal man. Henceforth, the icons catch. The moment you think it's difficult to think Sri Krishna without a peacock and a flute. Because that's the most biggest service what the Vishwakarmans have done for the community, and in a different way it is also a disservice.
Yeah.
No, we can't suddenly say no to it.
Yeah.
The same that it is.
Because now there's the calendar art form representation of gods, and now all dancers like try to dress up like that, do their makeup like that, hair, everything.
You see, it's about the complacency of people.
Yeah.
I am complacent with this Nataraja. I am happy in recreating this in various forms, dance, painting, etc. But I don't have that inner urge inside me to get to the root of this idea. Unless you have that, you don't inquire further. Who made this? Why did they make it like this? Why can't it be like this? You don't question it further, you take it for granted, and you will understand it half-baked.
And all this again because we're all very result-oriented and we want to show the audience in a certain
It's very catchy, first of all.
Yeah,
It's
so
very catchy.
not about our internal journey, but to present it in a way which is accepted. And
Yeah, see,
So,
it depends on your motivation. If you want to
Yeah.
present it excellently on stage, this is the best one.
Yeah.
But if you want for your own inner journey, you want to realize,
Yeah.
understand the knowledge, true knowledge of it, you will have a different journey.
Can I add one point?
Yeah.
Just to speak about Nataraja and dance, the posture of Nataraja and dance. I still heard some of dancer like Jayachandran speaking to me, and they were like, we know Jayachandran. She told dancers of yesterday never lifted legs on stage. It's very rare they lift legs, women dancers especially. And then there's so much required, they will not lift legs. But suddenly when they were asked to teach to city-dwelling girls, you can't fill the space. You don't know what to do in Vasanta and build up Natanam. But how do you feel? You just lift your leg. It's so catchy. You know, there are shortcut solutions for the Natanas gave to fill something. But they never knew that was these are whatever he says also, you know, like it's so difficult to inquire into the idea of Nata, it's so boring, it's so dense. Now it's easy to, you know, get away with the surface level. That's also there. But it's also that it's very eye-catchy, you know, you're very happy only with this, I'm happy with this. There are many options. Yeah, I think that happened to all art forms, not just one. Everything we encounter this problem. But opening up Nataraja would require this. This is the key. To open Natashastra, this is the key.
Any idea?
You're connecting ideas and you're opening up. The key is lying here. You can't say it starts from Angikam Bhavana. Abhinay does not start with Angikam Bhavana. Yeah.
So, so we'll get into more examples in the next session. We'll also probably touch upon Nataraja a little. So here I just want to give you a kind of a landscape of thought. Different kinds of answers or different kinds of ideas people have come up with in understanding reality, how different people understood differently. And as I mentioned, these are just very few in number which I am presenting here, which is even less than drop in an ocean. These are what have been passed down to us, out of which we know these few. And there are many more which I am not covering, but there would have been many more, thousands of more different ideas of reality, which we didn't encounter at all. So many thoughts have come and gone. Maybe they will come in future again. Maybe they will be revived later. Right now, some thoughts are available to us. So, but the interesting thing is how much time man has spent in reflecting on reality, and we will actually wonder, did these people have no other work? Why did they spend so much time on building such full-fledged systems? For whom? We are living reality. I mean, we are doing our day-to-day work. Why do we need to know all these things? It has nothing to do with practical life. Yes, true. I mean, you can do with your day-to-day practical life without knowing any of this. It's not necessary for everyone to know. But if you are in the path of inquiry, if you want to do something seriously, it can be any job, even your own artwork, your own personal job. If you want to know deeper about reality, and this question is common to every one of us, it comes at some point of time, or it may come and go, but it does come. Some hold on to it, some just ignore it or leave it. So these are people who held on to it, and they spent millions of man-hours in addressing this question. So I am looking at, I'll be touching some of Indian systems and Greek systems. There are many other systems, Chinese, Japanese, Persian. I'm not getting into all of them. It's just some examples I'm putting in front of you. So, you see, when we speak of reality, we most of the times take reality for granted. It's like we are already born into reality, so many things are easy for us. It's like cycling or swimming, we take them for granted. But if someone asks us to explain how do you cycle or how do you swim, we can't explain. How did you learn cycling? No one can explain. How did you learn swimming? No one can explain. You should just try it, that's all we say. Similarly, reality, what is reality? It's very difficult to explain. I think Augustine or Thomas Aquinas, one of them said, if you ask me what is the time, I can tell you, but if you ask me what is time, I cannot tell you. So I use time day in and day out. I can tell you what is the time now, but what is time? Sorry, I don't know. It's such an enigmatic concept. What is time? Does even time exist? Should one accept something called time? Why does time move only in one direction? Why can't one move back? In space one can move forward and backward, but why can't one move backward in time? Why does one age? Why can't one become young again? All kinds of things. Why can't there be multiple timelines? Why can't there be multiple worlds at the same time? All kinds of philosophical questions have been asked about time.
Sorry, this exact question answer is, where do you get it? Is Tavasamudram. The text on Tavas are dealing with this. We can't reduce it to anything to do with Mridangam or Rakwanam or something. This idea is handled, especially when it comes to Stapatis, especially Vishwakarman tradition. They handle the idea of time very precisely and space very precisely. And both are measured in the same unit called Tada. Time and space is measured in the same unit called Tada. And the rest of in space and time are one. Sorry, we will not suddenly mix everything. What he's saying of multiple realities, multiple time scales, multiple things, there are deeper discussions about it. If someone wants to take up works on art, that is a very valid idea.
Yeah. So, similarly, question of what is reality is a very deep question. We are all engrossed with reality day in and day out. We do all kinds of things, all kinds of activities. But if someone asks what is reality, we need to stop for a moment and then we say, I never thought about it. I mean, what is real? Is there something called real? Are we in reality or are we in a dream? And even if we define what is real, what all entities are real and what all entities are unreal? Out of the entities which we deal with in the day-to-day life, how many entities are real entities, how many are unreal entities? What is the nature of imagination? Is it real or unreal? Again, questions of what is subjective, what is objective. All these questions will come. So, reality is so densely packed, even in a very simple action, our mind is computing some millions of entities and making millions of decision-making processes are happening there in every second. But we take them for granted because we are trained to do that. It becomes very easy for us after some time. So it's like human can adapt to anything. Human can be trained to do anything, very complex things. So, like for instance, if you take something as simple as say someone is going to office, this simple act involves so many entities. First of all, he needs to decide the direction in which he has to go, the kind of transport one has to take, the kind of time it takes to reach the space, at what time he has to leave, and what work he has to do. There is an entity called office, he being an employee, there is a role called employee which he is playing. All these things are actually playing a role in he deciding the next step. So there are millions of entities which are participating in every act of decision making, but we do it very seamlessly. Okay, I'll go out, I'll see a car, I'll take, that's it. It seems like very simple thing, but it involves thousands of entities actually, which we can calculate very easily. It's like computer can calculate very quickly. We can calculate, we can make judgments very quickly with our surroundings. So that's what we do. So the question is, there are so many complex entities around us. This building, the material entities, as well as mental entities like our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, our imagination, our memories, all these things. So there are mental entities, material entities, fictional entities. All kinds of entities are there in the world. The question is, are all of them simple, or all of them complex, or some of them are simple and some of them are complex, and these complex entities can be made out of simple entities? That's the question. It's like language. Every given spoken language has only finite set of alphabets. English has 26, Indian languages have somewhere between 48 and 56, something like that. But the number of sentences which each one of us could construct are potentially infinite. If you actually stop a minute and reflect on all the sentences you have spoken so far in your life, probably you would never have repeated a single sentence. You might have conveyed the same meaning, but you might not have used the same sentence to convey the same meaning. There is so much width in sentence construction that they are potentially infinite. And imagine millions of humans across millions of years have spoken billions and trillions of sentences, and no two of them may have been same. But the number of atoms they have used, if it is English, only 26. With such finite set, such finite alphabet, you are able to construct infinite variety of sentences. How is it possible? That is where the kind of grammar comes in. Like languages have grammar, and we can analyze those statements also very quickly. Every time now I'm saying many statements. Every one of you is understanding almost every statement I'm saying, not because you have heard these statements before and then there is a database in your memory and then you are matching the meanings of these statements with the statements in your memory. No. Right now, on this spot, when I'm saying a statement, you are decoding it, you are understanding its grammar, you are understanding the meaning of each word, and you are forming the meaning in your mind. We have the capability to analyze a statement, break it into units, and understand the meaning, construct the meaning of the sentence from the meanings of units. In that sense, Chomsky says, we are all born with an innate grammar. How do children learn language? It's still an enigma. It's like they just see and they have their own reasoning. Okay, this word is used in all these occasions. Whenever I see this, I keep saying laptop. Whenever I see some other white laptop, I keep saying laptop. Some other blue laptop, I keep saying laptop. So laptop is a common word in different varieties of objects here. So this must be called a laptop. Whatever it is. So there is an innate grammar which is there. Whenever we use language, we speak language, we hear language, we use this grammar to understand things. Similarly, there is an innate grammar for every activity we do, for every subject we can think of. There is a grammar of dance, there is a grammar of music, there is a grammar of painting, and this can be extended to entire reality. There is a grammar of reality. If you consider reality to be a huge complex sentence, are there some finite set of alphabets out of which this complex sentence is built? That is the question. If there are, answer is not necessarily affirmative. Some say there are, some say there are none. If there are, then how many are there? And what are they? And how is this complex reality built out of these simple atoms? Those questions come. And similar questions can be asked about any art form. It can be music, it can be dance, any of these things. What are the basic constituents of movement? What are the basic constituents of music? How do we construct? Can we form new forms, new patterns in movement as well as ragas than the existing ones? Why should we take for granted only the set of things which are given to us as the final list? Why can't we add new sentences to the system? Those new sentences can be new movements, new ragas, anything. Which means we should first understand the alphabets. Without understanding alphabets, without knowing grammar, how can you create a new sentence? That should be a valid sentence. Not any set of random sequence of alphabets will form a valid sentence. It will be nonsense. It will be like a monkey typing a keyboard. So, all those are not valid sentences. What constitutes a valid sentence is based on your knowledge of the grammar of that language. So, grammar involves three things. One is the set of alphabets, other is the set of valid sentences, third is the set of rules which you apply on these alphabets to get these valid sentences. And this is true for any grammar, any discipline. It can be grammar of reality, grammar of painting, anything. You need a set of basic alphabets, you need a set of valid sentences, and you need a set of rules which you can apply on these alphabets to get these valid sentences. That is the idea. So, this question of what are the basic alphabets of reality has been posed across space and across time in history, and different people have come up with different answers. Some of them we are looking at here. So, these fundamental alphabets or fundamental primitives of reality, they are called arche. It's a Greek term, arche, which stands for the fundamental, functional as well as the organizational principle of universe. the question is, this world seems to be ordered. You know, people want explanations for everything. There is a quest to discover the cause of everything. Why is it like this? Why is it not like that? Why is the world ordered? Why is it not chaotic? Suppose I want to move forward, why is my body not going backward? Suppose I want to close this laptop, why can't it just go the other way? I want to push the table, why does it not come in the opposite direction? I mean, why is the world behaving in a particular way? Why does it seem to be ordered? So different people have given different answers. Some said gods are ordering them. Like there is a rhythm in the world which is ordered, and there are different gods for different orders. There is a god of rain, god of wealth, god of crops, all kinds of things.
What did you say for RK? These are
Fundamental, functional and organizational principle of the universe.
So we can use this technology to create reality.
No, we are not creating reality. We are analyzing reality in terms of these principles. We are trying to break down, given a sentence, we are trying to break down what are all the alphabets which are constituting this sentence. Similarly, so many varieties of things we are seeing. Okay, we see chairs, tables, laptop, our clothes and projector, wall, all these things we see. We say, okay, chair is made of wood, table is made of wood, laptop is made of plastic and electronics, silicon, carbon, all these things. It's like chemistry. We say there are basic atoms which form molecules, molecules form compounds, these kind of things, right? So we are trying to discover what are the basic atoms of reality. So right now the atom of chair and table is wood. Now wood can be further broken down into more simpler structures. So can I list all those basic atoms? And can I discover what are the principles in which these atoms are combined to give me chair, to give me table, to give me wall, to give me my watch, whatever it is? That is the question. You see, reality has almost infinite entities. We can't understand infinite entities. We can't understand the interactions among infinite entities if every interaction is unique. There should be some repeating pattern, right? Can I abstract these repeating patterns and these repeating entities so that I can comprehend this reality? Classes or universals, they have come to comprehend various things in reality. Like this is a chair, this is a chair.
Classes in universe.
Yeah. I'm coming to that. I'll just define. Like we see so many chairs. Okay. Suppose every object is very different. I mean, it's as different as chair and me. I'm very different from chair. Similarly, that chair is very different from the next chair. Suppose we don't have the word called chair. I call it A1, I call it A2, A3, A4. I give numbering to them. So I will tell bring A5. You need to know what is A5 and bring it. Now, imagine every entity in this room is given a unique name. And imagine every entity in this building, outside this room, in this building is given a unique name. Every entity in this world is given a unique name. We have to remember every entity's name. And no entity has any commonality with the other entity. We have to remember the mapping between the name and the object. Every single object. There are almost, at least, potentially infinite entities. And within our lifetime, though they are finite, that's a very big number. So, it will be extremely difficult for us to deal with this world where every entity seems to be completely unique. That entity has no similarity with other entities. I need to remember every entity's features, its properties, its name, all these things I have to store and I have to recollect them whenever the need comes. But we don't do that. Why don't we do that? I say, bring some chair. You can pick up any one of these chairs and bring. You don't bring a table, you don't bring a laptop, you will bring only chair. Though you will bring any chair you want, but you will bring only chair because you see a commonality of chairness in all these chairs. It is because that commonality is there, I can separate the things in this room. Okay, these are all chairs, these are all tables, these are all people, this is all projector, this is laptop. I can separate these things in this room and I can also act based on that. I can say, okay, I can't eat chairs, I can eat only some food. I separate a class of entities called food, edible items, non-edible items, so that I can act. I can sit in chairs, I can't sit in laptop. So this kind of decision making we are able to do because we think in terms of classes. I can sit in any chair. It doesn't matter whether I move from this chair to that chair. But if I have to acquire every object, first I should understand, is it an object where I can sit? Or is it an object which I can eat? Or is it an object which I can taste? Every object will be a new object, and we have to again start from scratch in perceiving that object, which we don't do. Because once we get an idea of a class, even when we see a new instance of that class, the class is already known to us, though the instance is new. So we behave with that new instance in an old manner because the class is old. It is these classes which are helping us order this world. That is what Plato says. Plato speaks of forms. He says forms are gods and they order the world, because if you don't have universals, you can't order the world. Universals help us order, no? I want to get out of the room, I should know what a door is. Otherwise I will keep touching every object and I will ask, is this a door, is this a door, is this a door? But I know what a door is, I will just see, okay, that is a door, I will walk out. Because we have an understanding of class. And Plato was the first one who sort of linked the mythology with reason. Before Plato, before him Socrates, and before that Thales and all these people, there was a mythological understanding of reality. Like there are gods for every specific thing. If it is thunder, it is Zeus. If it is rain, it is some other god. If it is wealth, it is some other god. These kind of things are there. Plato actually said these gods are nothing but these classes, are nothing but these universals. He actually, yeah.
Sorry, one minute. A very important understanding that classes what he is speaking is what is our Traishram, Chaturashram, Vishram, Khandam and Sankhya. They are not Dala units, they are not any count, but they are classes. They are jatis. You know, it has to be thought from a very different angle. In a particular instance, what he says was instance. One of the instances of this idea is this counting of 3s and 4s and 5s in the Tara scale. The class is far different.
The basis, can we call it as the basis?
Though it's of course something like that. But just to be a little awakened and cautioned that we can't take these things to be so within our hand. They are deep ideas, because when you hit one of the basic texts of Tala text earlier, accounts of Vidadeshi, or even when you read the commentaries of Bharata, especially when it comes to the ideas of Chachaputa, the 5 major Talas, it is such a big mistake when you read it directly as a particular instance, as someone is taking a Talam like this. It's such a big, drastic misunderstanding of the Tala system itself. Because he is speaking something like this, at this level. This encounters us to assign gods to Talas. There are, gods for certain things, colors for it. This gives into a very different way of understanding. Plato and Bharata sounds very similar at one particular point, because they understand. I'm sure people like Sarja, they would speak about it like swaras. What we understand, they are far different. What he is speaking is so significant to us, because if we don't ask these questions, we land up once again hitting the same wall called Shastra and dancing and this and that, and we'll never be able to get out of that particular whatever we call. We are grinding into the same thing, because they're saying trying to do something else and we're reading something else. Totally different, and you can just exist there, not even come into. These are poor imitations of that. Like, later we'll come into these things. I'm not saying he's poor as in very poor. I'm saying this is the length and depth in which texts like to the eminence of Sharangadeva, to the eminence of Jayaprasenanis wrote ideas. If we jump into immediate putting into, and I know it, I know Aditala, we are running into big mess. No, we are not running into problems, we are running into mess. It's not problem.